Hey everyone, do you have questions about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology or the effects of this new technology on society? The conversation you're about to listen to answers those questions and more. By the time this video is over, I promise you'll have a better understanding about the cryptocurrency industry. Marquis and Jake breaks it down to its simplest form. The conversation offers so much value. This is why I created the Easy FinTech community. Those with the knowledge teaches those of us who needs the information. However, remember this video is not to sell you on cryptocurrency. It's to add value to your education about this fascinating industry. We are not financial advisors or financial experts. So make sure you continue to do your research about the cryptocurrency space. Remember, each one teaches one, so we must educate each other. Prepare to take notes, and thank you for listening to this conversation. Enjoy. What is cryptocurrency?
So cryptocurrency is basically, it's a currency that is basically in the form of a blockchain. So a better question, I guess, is what is blockchain, most notably? So in essence, blockchain it's basically a sequence or a chain of data that's used like as a public ledger for transactions. That's the main tool that it is used for. So it's basically a chain of transactions that builds upon itself, that's encrypted.
Can you break that down for us a little bit more? When you say encrypted, what do you mean?
So once it is there, it can't be tampered with. So it's basically a security tool. So that's why as you build on to the chain, more blocks are added and more coins are created. It becomes, I guess you could say it becomes more secure, because as more blocks are added to the blockchain, it becomes harder to, I guess you could say, hack or tamper with. Okay. Because in order for somebody to, I guess, hack or tamper with it, they would have to basically just hack the entire blockchain, which would be incredibly hard. So this is why it's very secure and people believe in it.
So how does cryptocurrencies or the different types of currencies, how do they associate to blockchain then? What's the relationship there?
So a lot of them, this can get a little bit advanced, but people are creating their own cryptocurrencies in ways that will help in the real world. So like they'll be doing like decentralized applications. They'll be creating their own exchanges. Like Cardano right now, I think that's becoming a pretty big name, Cardano, with their ADA coin. They're utilizing theirs to try to create a roadmap for Africa to become more, I guess you could say, coming into the digital age to help with their economies. So that's one way that they do it over there at Cardano. The basic understanding though is that with crypto, the biggest goal, I would say, is to decentralize our use of currency, not to, because all of our fiat currencies now in existence, like the dollar, is centralized. The banks control it. And what crypto is trying to push towards is a decentralized currency that you yourself become the bank.
Yeah.
So I wanna jump in here. So there's obviously in this space, there's tons of layers, right? So crypto is obviously thrown around a lot, but really crypto is just kind of I mean, it's almost like it's only half of the word, right? Now the crypto kind of stands for cryptography, which is it's basically the mathematical and computational practice of encoding and decoding that data that's getting passed around. So that's essentially at a high level what it is. And the whole decentralization factor, why that's important, why it's so powerful, is that today, if you understand anything about monetary policy, you know, how the US dollar works, how central banking works, all of the currencies, the paper money, the fiat that's used today is issued by central banks. And they have the power to print and or create however many dollars and put it into the circulation, whatever they like, right? And so that really just leaves the power to the government and to central banks to be responsible for issuing, you know, those paper, the paper money. And so the whole decentralization thing just gives really the power to no one. No one owns the currencies. No one can, you know, print more of it and make inflation become an issue. So that's really, you know, a really important base level thing to understand, to really comprehend the importance of decentralization. Because how it works today, we have the US dollar, we have the US government. They are responsible for creating the money, distributing the money. You know, they pay for all of the infrastructure, military, all of these things by just literally printing money out. And they control the circulation. Whereas in the crypto space, we have cryptos that are decentralized, that are not controlled by any government, that anyone can have access to, and that no entity or power can essentially create more of.
So quick question then, guys. If no one has control of the currency, if there's a set of people who have access to more of that currency than other people, doesn't that cause an issue as well?
So really, yes and no. Anyone can have access, as long as you have an internet connection. Obviously, there are some places in the world where internet is actually not serviced, not available. So those people essentially can be left out. But nowadays, it's much easier to kind of get access to it because we have things now like Bitcoin ATMs. We have platforms that allow you to get this stuff via SMS, actual text messaging. But yes, it's definitely possible someone could essentially be quote unquote left out of the system, but it's highly unlikely. And it's not like how it is today with, you know, most of the people, you know, essentially in the top, you know, that are top earners that has essentially access to, you know, banking and all these different things. Whereas overseas, you know, all that stuff is mostly in-house and governed.
I would like to add on a little bit to that too, because we see this a lot in the current market right now, like how we've dipped almost $1 trillion down. So that's essentially whales selling off their deep pockets. So that's going to happen. It's an early market. We're in the infant stages. It's going to happen. There's going to be huge dips like that. But essentially, over time, it evens out. Everything evens out eventually. But yeah, it's just something that you're going to have to deal with when you're early on. It's going to be extremely volatile. Everybody should know that going into crypto. It's going to be volatile at the beginning because we're still in the early stages.
Now, so we talk about decentralization and solving other issues of having too much currency in the market and who has control of it. What other issues can blockchain solve? That's one question. And then what are some of the issues that cryptocurrencies can solve as well?
So blockchain really solves the whole transparency problem, right? That's really the biggest problem. You know, this is something that I think Jake mentioned earlier. He mentioned the public ledger, right? And so the public ledger just allows anyone and everyone to have transparency on who made what transaction, what day it went from this wallet address to this wallet address. It just solves the huge, the big transparency problem as well as decentralization problem as well. So those are the two problem areas that really that solves. Now, in regards to other cryptos, it can vary depending on the specific project. For example, there's Ethereum, right? That's very popular. They are trying to solve, a decentralized application problem, right? So that's like taking decentralization and then applying that to the world of applications, kind of like, another example, social media is controlled by companies, right? We had, Donald Trump, who was banned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, although people may agree or disagree about that, he was banned because he signed Twitter's terms and conditions. They have the power to ban him because it's their platform. But with decentralized applications, you can't ban anyone because the underlying technology will essentially run it, right? So there's no one person controlling an app, for example. So it just, again, it varies depending on the project. They all try to solve, they all have like different niches that they're trying to, solve. But I think those are, just two examples of kind of key problem areas that they're trying to solve.
I love the conversation and everything. And some of the questions I'm going to ask is going to sound repetitive and also very simple because the audience that I'm aiming for is to help them understand this whole thing from a basic level.
Right.
So now, if someone is getting started in this industry, want to become an investor, because that's what the platform is for, to help people create a side hustle or a full-time business, either investing or starting the usual business. What should they do to get started in this field or with cryptocurrency?
Biggest thing, if you want to jump into this space, is you have to do an extensive amount of research. It's really important to understand decentralization, blockchain, monetary policy, central banking, basic finance, economics. I mean, there's so many different avenues, right, that you need to kind of go down so you can get the full scope of understanding why this is all important. Because I think a lot of times people see the amount of money that's being made in the space, they hear about, success stories, all of that. But if to really, I think if you want to invest well, you need to take the time to do tons and tons of research, whether it be reading, right, diving into articles, looking at YouTube videos. I mean, you have to do an extensive amount of research, reach out to people in your network that are in this space or in the technology space or in finance, because, it'll just help you really be able to, fully understand why this is all important and why people are even in the space to begin with. So yeah, I think to answer your question, really just research.
Both Jake and Marquise, you guys know a lot about this stuff. Can you just give me like a quick about how you guys got started in this space and where do you see this space going in the near future?
I got started. I got started with Ethereum, looking at Ethereum and mostly following Charles Hoskinson. He's kind of a known figure because he just he started Cardano and ADA. But that's basically how I got into it. I haven't been into it that long. It's only been a couple of years that I've been in the space. So I wouldn't say I am a pro. I'm just knowledgeable in what I invest in. So that's the big thing that got me into it, though, is Ethereum, because that's when blockchain started to actually like try to solve problems, like, because Bitcoin was just it was just known as the first coin to actually implement blockchain. It didn't really have a proper use. And then Ethereum came along and started to actually, like, you know, try and solve problems and so on and so forth. So that's when I started to get really interested, like, hey, this can actually, you know, change lives. This can actually be used in the real world.
Mhm.
There's actually a use for it. So yeah, that's how I got started with it.
Okay. And you, Marquise?
Sure. Yeah. For me, I first heard about the space a very long time ago. It was around 2000 and I want to say 15, 16. One of my friends in my class, I studied computer science through school, so you know all the new tech stuff, you know, normally is funneled to the engineering students. And so he told me about it. I didn't really do enough research on it at the time. I kind of just, I don't know. I mean, I just was like, oh, I don't know what this is. You know, I didn't want to touch it. I didn't know much about it. I think a lot of people have that sentiment when they initially get in. You know, you just don't really know too much about it. And then I went down the deep rabbit hole and started learning about this stuff. But yeah, essentially, I mean, started out hearing about this stuff around school, and then obviously just being in the IT space. I went down that rabbit hole. I learned about Bitcoin, what it is, what is it used for, why is it, you know, why are people investing, putting money into this thing? And once I learned about the underlying technology, I was like, okay. I learned about economics a little bit. I learned about the whole supply and demand thing. I learned about the scarcity aspect of it, the monetary policy, how central banking works. Once you start diving into these avenues, I mean, really the picture becomes crystal clear about why these people who created this were essentially just so far ahead of their time. Because we are seeing, you know, a lot of the things that have played out today, especially with the pandemic, on why all of this is so important. But essentially that's what kind of got me in. I mean, I just started going down the rabbit hole, researching things, reading on this stuff.
Let's talk about government influence, right? So right now, the space isn't regulated. Do you guys think that the government would, how would the government regulation, how will regulation affect this space? Because it's coming pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's funny. I mean, all the people that got in early, they kind of got off. You know, the people who sold it back in 2017, they were able to get off almost scotch free. I mean, there were absolutely no regulations, no taxes, nothing written in the tax code on this stuff. I think the governments can have a huge influence on kind of how things go, right? So. I mean, they have a huge influence on the space. I think right now we are starting to see it in the tax code. They're now, you know, making people pay taxes on capital gains on this stuff if you sell. But I honestly believe that is probably as far as they can go. They're regulating the heck out of crypto exchanges. You have to, you know, give your driver's license and all this stuff when you sign up so they can know who you are. But in my opinion, I think that is probably as far as it can go. I think the farthest it goes is taxes, probably coming down hard on crypto exchanges. You have to make sure you have KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering laws, all of that stuff. But I don't see it going any further than that.
Yeah. I like to say, the longer governments push away crypto, the worse it's going to be. It needs to be embraced. It's the 21st century. Technology is moving along at an incredible pace, and a lot of people want to resist, and it's not good for the economy. These technologies are game changing, and it's only going to get better. So that's it's. I hope that governments in the long run will eventually adopt and adapt to the space. This is also a pretty good point too, because back a little bit earlier on, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, a lot of the billionaires would completely like discredit crypto. And now behind closed doors, and now slowly but surely, they're accepting it. So it kind of shows you like where people's interests are in the grand scheme of things, I guess you could say.
Yep, they always say follow the money, not the words, not what they're saying, right? So yeah, good point.
So I work in banking, right? And all of these big banks now are being forced to create strategies for their clients in this space as well. How are we know government is going to regulate, but what type of influence do you think the big banks are going to have on this space, both integrating the technology into their business and also creating different strategies for their clients?
So I've seen this as well, Omar, on in the IT space too. So what I've seen mostly from banks, they're trying to compete with the Coinbases, they're trying to compete with the Binances, the Krakens of the world, the crypto exchanges, where they can offer their clients, hey, come buy Bitcoin over here, we'll store it for you on our mainframe server here, and we'll charge you a fee for that. So I think that's one of the biggest strategies I've seen. It's called crypto custodian, right? Or crypto custody. We're seeing that a lot with banks. You know, they're wanting to store and work with tech companies who own mainframes and, you know, all of these different technologies, right? Just to kind of hold and custody other people's crypto and just charge a fee for it. Just like how it works with, you know, our money, right? We have our money in banks. They hold the banks. I mean, they hold the money in the banks. They lend it on the back end. They're essentially trying to kind of do the same thing. I think it's one of the biggest strategies I'm seeing, at least from the banking side. I think that's something they're going to keep doing, and then they're just going to try to compete with, you know, the Coinbases and other exchanges to try to get some of that market share.
And this is actually a really hard question. Like when you think about it, like what could happen over the next century if banks start buying this up, and like with peer-to-peer transfers, what exactly do these central banks, like what power do they hold unless they start trying to buy up, and like what then? But it's almost like a shift of power from central banks, I guess you could say, to like the Coinbases and the Binances of the world, where you exchange and you become your own bank. So it's a really hard question. Like I still to this day try to like answer it, but I can't really come up with like a solution in my head. I guess just like over the next like couple decades, we're gonna have to see where it goes. But yeah, it fascinates me, but I just can't really fathom it, I guess you could say, like, because we can't really think of a world like without some form of centralization. So as of now, I'm not sure, but I really do hope that, I mean, decentralization comes in full force and we can just go peer to peer. That would be absolutely amazing. Especially, like I said earlier, it would be absolutely amazing for developing countries.
Yeah,
because like they would have their own power to hold their own currency on their person without actually like holding like fiat currency like cash. Like so they can't. It's just, I see a lot of good things happening in Africa. So I've been really pumped for Cardano. That's my one shill. Sorry. I really do. I believe in that coin a lot. So I like what Hoskinson is doing, and what he plans for Africa is really cool. I feel like Africa could eventually become very, very strong. So that's nice.
Sometimes you hear about Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. What is Gen 1 Ethereum or Gen 1 blockchain? What exactly are they telling the public?
So, sure. Yeah. So really, the first generation blockchain would be considered Bitcoin, right? That's like the OG, the original, that kind of started up, that kind of kicked off the whole thing. And really, its underlying value is just strictly blockchain technology. And then you got like the second generation, which is, you know, kind of mapped to Ethereum, the decentralized applications, the proof of stake protocol, where it doesn't use proof of work. Now, there's those two very different things. There's proof of stake, which is what runs the Bitcoin network, which is where all these computers are part of the network validate the transaction. I know that's a mouthful there, but proof of work powers Bitcoin, whereas proof of stake powers Ethereum, and that's a whole different protocol. And I mean, that's just kind of how it works, where you kind of lock up your coins to validate the network, and then you kind of get, you know, pay like interest on that. And a better example would be EOS, right? I mean, that's already proof of stake model. So that would be considered like probably a better Gen 2 type of crypto, because they kind of launched as a proof of stake out the box, opposed to having to develop like Ether.
Right. Yeah.
So just for the platform, and when they listen to this conversation, I need them to keep in mind they need to research what is mining, what is proof of work, and what is proof of stake, to actually understand where these different currencies or these different platforms are going. When you guys are looking to invest in a platform, in a currency, what do you look for? But there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies out there. Some of them do stuff. Some of them have utility like Ethereum and Cardano, and then some of them don't. So how do you make a decision on what to invest, to put your money into?
What I specifically do is, right now, since it's such an early market, what is this crypto going to do? Let's say if I want to invest in a specific coin, what is that coin's niche? Like, what is it performing that no other coin is doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
And how can it change the field? That's what you want to look at. Or if you're saying you want to look at smart chains, okay, what can Ethereum do right now versus, let's say, Binance, which is another smart chain? What can that do? There's a lot of different smart chains that are coming out. They're all trying to compete to be the top dog right now. And obviously Ethereum's been around the longest, so it's the top dog right now. But you have to look at it like a good investment would be finding a coin that, I guess, has a certain niche or the market hasn't seen yet. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So for me, well, I've been in the space for a while. Back when I was in, I didn't know enough. You know, I just picked based on really a few principles, such as supply and demand. The one thing I think is really important is scarcity. You know, obviously, you know, you want to invest in something that's, you know, fairly scarce, that's hard to procreate or is limited in supply, because as demand increases, obviously that'll increase the overall price of said asset. So for me, that was the biggest things. Obviously understanding the technology, what kind of problem they're trying to solve. I think nowadays now than ever is really, really tough to dig through all the cryptos and pick kind of which one's gonna, you know, do well. I like to stick to the legacy ones, the ones that've been around, the ones that have a great engineering team behind them that have been proven, and also the ones that, where are the banks investing? What is Peter Thiel and the Winklevoss twins? What are the billionaires, you know, the extremely high, successful, valuable people? Where are they putting their money? And if so, why. Let me go do research on why. I think that's important too, because I think a lot of times people will kind of, we'll all get caught up into a certain asset. And I did this too myself. Like I did this starting off, I just picked something and then I was like, oh my gosh, like this is probably the best coin that I picked. I'm going to invest all my money here. But, that it may not have been the best at the time for a multitude of different reasons instead of, just following really where the big money is. Why are they investing in Bitcoin? Why are they investing in Ether, Litecoin, et cetera, right? So I think that's really important too, because the scarcity and supply and demand aspect does play a role. If you're investing in a crypto that's inflationary, it's probably not going to be the best long-term investment as more will get pushed into circulation, therefore devaluing the actual currency. So I think just little things like that are really important. And again, I think that, understanding the engineering team, reading the white papers is important. Obviously, most people don't want to do that, but you want to read the white papers or at least look through it thoroughly so kind of what kind of problem they're trying to solve, what algorithm they're using. And I mean, that is more, of a really, really deep dive, but at the surface, supply, demand, circulating supply, is it deflationary? And what kind of people are backing this project or crypto?
All right, so here's the final question, guys. Before I answer, I want to thank both of you for sharing a lot of great information. I've learned a lot tonight, so I want to thank you for that. But if you're speaking to someone who is new to this space and who really wants to get into it, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell them to be honest, I would tell them to not, I want to word my answer very carefully because I don't want to necessarily come off as like somebody who can advise you on your finances, because I'm no financial advisor, but you should keep it simple. Start off with the most known cryptos. Don't go like off and like try and like get this like coin that somebody's shilling online, like, oh, everybody's buying this coin. Don't buy over hype. That's the main one. And also another good one is, we do look at the prices of a crypto and go, oh wow, it's so high, like Bitcoin's at 35,000, like that's worth so much. But you need to understand the differences between just the price and the overall market cap and the circulating supply of it. Because something can be, let's say, only a penny, but if it has a low circulating supply and a max supply of around like 1 billion, it has a way higher ceiling that it can hit over time. So if you were to get in, like, let's say early at 1 penny and it hits $10, then you made a huge profit. So a big thing to understand is the circulating supply of the coin and the market cap of it, not just the price of it as it is now. You have to look at the long term, so to speak.
Yeah, so I would say it's really, really, this is really important. Never invest more than you are comfortable losing. That's very important. Do not get greedy. Do not get overzealous. Do not put in more than you are comfortable than losing. If you put in $100 and tomorrow you wake up and it's at zero, it should not ruin your day. If it does, if you're upset, if you're frustrated, you're sweating, you have put in more than you are comfortable than losing. And that is not a good principle. You don't want to invest based on emotion. That's another thing. This space is still very new. It's been around for a decade now, 11 years now, but it's still very new. It's not enough money in it yet. The markets are not stable. And I've had to speak with one of my coworkers about this before, because I introduced him to the space and he got in, but every time there's some crazy price swing, he likes to, oh man, what's going on? You know, he'll call me, hey man, what happened? You know, I tell him, look, it sounds like you put in more than you're comfortable in losing. And you know, you don't, that's just never a good principle to, you know, that's just not how you want to move in this space, because crypto is very volatile. You know, it can go up 20% one day and go down 20% the next. So that's really, really important. And then again, I can't stress it enough. Just do research, in abundance amount of research before you put your hard-earned money into this space.
Good stuff, guys. Guys, I want to thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge with us. Again, that's what the platform is for. That's what I'm building it for. Each of us who have the knowledge to teach the rest of us who wants the knowledge and who needs it. So I really thank you guys for sharing the information with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Sure. Yep. Thanks for having me. Yep.